Under the rules of boxing, defeat isn't declared when you get hit with a blow. It isn't even declared when you fall to the mat. Defeat is only declared when you don't get back up again. Now, ALPA pilots have had our share of blows during this pandemic and the resulting economic downturn, and we will likely have more coming. But I'm here to tell you that we always get back up again. We simply will not accept defeat. Now, this spring, with your extraordinary leadership and support, our mighty union put up a tremendous fight to secure passage of the CARES Act. This worker-first economic relief package has served as a lifeline for our industry until now. When Congress passed and President Trump signed it into law in March, no one could have predicted that the pandemic would persist in such severity or affect our industry with such devastation. And this is why ALPA is fighting so hard to extend the CARES Act payroll support program through March 31st of 2021, to extend that lifeline and save as many pilot jobs as we can. Together, ALPA pilots sent, ready, an incredible 280,000 letters and emails to Congress, and another 110,000 tweets, all with one clear message that saving aviation jobs is critical to the economic recovery of the nation. Led by each of you on this board and inspired by the individual appeals that many of you have made to your pilots, this historic level of outreach has helped ALPA win acknowledgement by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that aviation workers need continued economic relief. Proud to say 16 Republican senators and a bipartisan majority of House members have backed extending the PSP. President Trump himself has also publicly favored continued economic relief for airline industry jobs. Now, despite this bipartisan backing, our government has still failed to act. Decision makers have ignored the PSP's effectiveness in keeping airline employees on the payroll. They've dismissed the program's potential to mitigate the sweeping economic damage that is sure to follow mass furloughs. And they've disregarded the PSP as a vital tool to help ensure the ready status of workers so that the airlines can maintain air service to communities of all sizes as our nation recovers. This failure may have been a blow, but ALPA pilots will always get back up to fight again. Our union has been clear-eyed and plain-spoken regarding the consequences if the government fails to act. Through ALPA's Why I Fly social media campaign, we've put a face on the real people who make up our industry. Individual pilots have shared their stories in their own words of the pride that they take in delivering life-saving bone marrow for patients who need it, or transporting mail to connect communities large and small. Our pilots have also shared the stakes for their families if they are to be furloughed. We've made sure decision makers understand that failing to save the jobs of thousands of pilots when the payroll support program expires on September the 30th will not only exact personal financial devastation on workers, but the failure will jeopardize the role that airlines play in fueling the global economy. We've emphasized how allowing widespread job losses will drain the economy and deplete state and federal resources, and our union has left no doubt that failing to save airline employees' jobs will also threaten our industry's ability to assist the military, transport American goods and services, and provide essential transportation for smaller American cities. In addition to lawmakers hearing these facts through our calls to action, I've also represented you in communicating with Congress at the highest levels. As a member of the AFL-CIO's Executive Council, I represented ALPA on a recent multi-union call with Senate Majority Leader Schumer. I followed up with a personal call, as well as to reinforce ALPA's priority on saving jobs. I've had multiple conversations with Speaker Pelosi to deliver the same message, and will do so again next week on Monday. And I'm in regular contact with the leader of the Senate Commerce Committee, Republican Senator Roger Wicker. ALPA also recently joined a Transportation Trades Department letter to Senate Majority Leader McConnell and other Republican Democratic Senate and House leaders. Now, a few days ago, a leading Washington, D.C. reporter tweeted that money for airlines is going to be a big part of the discussion on COVID relief going forward. I'm hearing more and more about it from people involved on both sides. That's what he said. Our pro-worker message may not get through to government leaders the first time, but ALPA pilots and our government affairs team always get back up, and we will always try again. ALPA is not only working to spur collaboration across the political aisle, but we're also doing more than ever to work together across our industry to strengthen our call for economic aid. For example, I have frequent conversations with the president for Airlines for America, and I'm pleased to report that A4A favors a PSP extension and is making that clear on Capitol Hill. We're also building a collaborative relationship with the president of the Regional Airline Association, who, despite years of professional differences, spirited over pilot training and safety, recognizes the utility of working together to save our industry. I also represented ALPA pilots in co-authoring an opinion piece with Sarah Nelson, Association of Flight Attendants, CWA president, in which we jointly called on Congress and the White House to take action to save aviation jobs. In addition, we've used all of the online advocacy tools at our disposal, launching a series of targeted social media ads and digital placements in Axios, The Hill, and Politico's Morning Transportation. All key publications read by members of Congress and their staffs. Through all this outreach, we've generated an unbelievable 10 million impressions and 50,000 click-throughs in the past 5 weeks alone. So, as each of you knows all too well, our government's failure to extend the CARES Act translates into a dire and very real consequences for our union members. But even today, on September 9th, we know that Congress and the administration still have time and can still deliver economic relief to make certain that airline workers and our industry can fully realize the role that we can and must play in the global recovery. In a disturbingly similar theme in Canada, the government's inaction is also threatening airline pilots' jobs. While we welcomed the recent extension of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, the reality is that this extension provides scaled-down assistance to corporations and simply postpones massive job losses, which will occur if the government does not provide direct financial assistance for airlines beyond the subsidy's expiration date. ALPA Canada recently presented forward-looking recommendations to the government that provide a clear path to the industry's recovery efforts and future growth. And we have maintained outreach to the Prime Minister and other elected officials. Now, we know that our pilots' outreach on social media is making a difference in Canada, as in the United States. Canadian ALPA members have participated in record numbers in multiple Twitter calls to action to protect frontline aviation workers and their families. Just last week, a key member of Parliament, the Parliamentary Secretary for Infrastructure and Communities, engaged with us directly via Twitter. Listen, we know we're getting through, and I can't say enough of the fine work that President Tim Perry has been doing up in Canada. This has been a dual effort, side by side. Remember, there is no I in ALPA International without Canada, all right? So as ALPA pilot leaders, we all recognize that the challenges that lie ahead are formidable. Our pilots have received more than 11,000 notices of possible involuntary furlough. While some of our airlines are anticipating bankruptcy or ceasing operations altogether. Even amid this distressing news, we know from our own experience and from that of the pilots who came before us that pilots relying on others, on each other, working together to brace each other is the only effective counter to punches like these. In fact, in many ways, the current downturn has only galvanized our union in fighting for the dignity of work and fortifying each other. We see the evidence in the incredible participation in our calls to action, and we're also witnessing it at the bargaining table and the overwhelming unity with which many of our agreements to save jobs and assist members in need are being approved by our pilot groups. And we're seeing it in the pilots who are taking early outs in order to save the jobs of others on their property. Folks, I'm talking about unity, commitment, and action here. Not focusing on distractions, not divisive talk. Unity, commitment, and action. This is our moment. Make no mistake. And a determination. We have a determination to always get back up after being knocked down. All right. So pulling from ALPA nationals and local resources, many of you have led your pilots in developing creative agreements that respond to the economic realities of the current economic environment, that protect pilots' health and financial security and work to mitigate furloughs. While the first COVID-19 era agreements focused on pilot health, they set the stage for our union's bargaining response to economic issues. With ALPA's collective bargaining committee support, which has been extraordinary, MEC negotiating committees have designed a range of voluntary measures to reduce, delay, or relieve the need for pilot furloughs. In one example of many, nearly half of the more than 2,500 Spirit pilots have worked together to prevent 800 of their pilots from losing their jobs beginning October the 1st. And just 2 weeks ago, the WestJet pilots voted overwhelmingly in favor of an agreement that saves nearly 500 of their pilots from being laid off. ALPA is also enhancing pilot collaboration beyond the bargaining table. We recently learned of ExpressJet's wind down and received news of American Airlines plans to cut routes to many small to mid-sized U.S. cities. Amid these intensely troubling developments, our fee for departure bargaining roundtable is one way we're helping our members who fly for regionals foster an information exchange. Managing crisis bargaining. Our recent Take Action to Save Pilot Jobs video brought home for all of us everything that's at stake for our members who've received notice of possible furlough. For pilots who do transition to furlough status, ALPA's Furloughed Pilot Support Program offers key resources, including mentoring, to give our less experienced members the benefit of having the support of a seasoned colleague. And Captain Capt will have more details in his report. These examples of union pilots helping union pilots are only a sampling of the enormous wave of collective action that I see occurring across ALPA like it never has before. And I want to thank every ALPA pilot who's taken an early retirement to save other pilots' jobs. I want to thank every member at MEC for standing in support of furlough pilots throughout the association. Such collective action not only against opposition, but for each other is at the core of our union movement. That's what the union movement is all about, right? So look, there's little question that these times are enormously stressful. And it goes without saying that I'm proud of each of the tailored resources that our team of pilots and staff have made available to our members. And I'm particularly grateful right now that we have a truly industry-leading pilot peer support program as one of those resources. Together, our pilots and staff have provided a safe pathway for all ALPA members, including those without an airline-specific program, the gold standard, to come forward with stress-related issues in a confidential, trusting, safe environment. This program shows how, once again, ALPA pilots are circling the wagons for our members when they're in need. And they are in need. So In truth, every ALPA pilot is affected by the serious economic challenge the airline industry is now facing. If you haven't been affected yet, you may be soon. Or perhaps you know someone who is struggling with a job change status. It's obvious to me that each one of our line pilots intuitively understands the seriousness of the situation. And it's the reason our union has responded with characteristic unity and support for one another in every sense, including by contributing the data behind our national advocacy positions. So, look, in the first days of the pandemic, ALPA's priority was, of course, protecting our members' health. Now, if you remember back, I told everybody, this was the trinity for the national officers, right? No more pilots to die, right? No more pilots to be infected with the virus through unnecessary preventable risk. And of course, to protect jobs. We called for a government public health mandate back then regarding masks, face masks, disinfection, personal protective equipment, contact tracing, exposure notification, which was a big one. Because our members are committed to the common good, many have made the effort to submit valuable safety information through data action reports and other individual pilot group programs. I have to, that one item that we kind of hijacked and borrowed from the United MEC has been a complete game changer when it comes to not only getting valuable data, but anyone who asks a question on that program gets to see the entire breadth of the association, because anybody associated with that answer, including representatives, local committees, national officers, staff associated with, gets to address the issue. With one piece of software, you get the sense of being an ALPA member, the breadth and size of your union. And we pull a lot of trend information from that too. It's like we can keep our finger on the pulse of everything that's happening within the association. I can't say enough good things about it. But as a result of it, ALPA has been able to identify gaps in airline compliance in these areas of safety and security and apply pressure on our employers to resolve them. This has also led to RTCA, not sure if you're familiar, Radio Technical Commission for Aeronautics, organization set up to determine minimum operational performance standards, is setting up a special committee to develop an industry standard to be followed to clean and disinfect our aircraft. ALPA remains adamant in our call for a government mandate, but even without one, our union has improved public health and safety and affected industry behavior. Now look, ensuring a healthy flying environment for passengers and crews is only one element of ALPA's comprehensive strategy to build the public's confidence to return to the skies. We're also working in many other ways to increase bookings, strengthen our industry, and save jobs, including expanding efforts to reach passengers with our message that airline pilots are ready for takeoff. Later this month, ALPA's paid advertising campaign will ramp up to include video, social media, and print ads in leading U.S. markets. Our pilot staff team has also met with Boeing, Airbus, A4A, NACA, and other industry partners to discuss how they can contribute to our innovative campaign to shape a return to the skies. Now, last week I asked this board for your help in encouraging your airlines to join with this initiative. And today, I make that appeal again, because together we can successfully make clear that whenever airline passengers are ready to travel, we are ready to take them. Right? It's safe to fly when you say it's safe to fly. And I want to thank JetBlue to be the first ones under the wire with that. Appreciate that very much. We've got them signing on to the program, but encourage everybody, please. This is extremely important. Job may depend on it. Now, while these times are tough, ALPA pilots always get back up to fight again. And so will our industry. We know that recovery will come, and I know each of you is determined to help ALPA drive it. Amid all our efforts to save jobs and kickstart the economic recovery for our industry, ALPA continues to represent pilots' interests in every aspect of our profession and in every possible venue. For example, through our air safety organization, we're making sure members are informed about all aspects of the profession that are affected by the pandemic. Our pilot staff team provides our members up to the minute information regarding FAA medical certification, training and currency exemptions, oxygen mask requirements, known crew member, passport renewal, and FFDO training. As ALPA's president, I represented our members at a recent Next Gen Advisory Committee meeting to raise concerns about aircraft equipage capabilities, as well as plans to utilize RNAV instrument approach procedures while parallel runway operations are in effect. I also represented ALPA at the Drone Advisory Committee meeting in June to report on the ALPA-conceived Safety Culture Task Group. So it's a drone safety culture task group that we suggested be created, and it was accepted. I also presented a list of safety tenets that will serve as guiding principles in the development of a safety culture within the UAS community. In July, ALPA sent a letter to Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan to open communications with the Pakistan Airline Pilots Association following the tragic Pakistan International Airlines accident. I offered ALPA's assistance to the Civil Aviation Authority and the airlines within Pakistan. Now, folks, when I was first vice president, I tried for 4 years to get attention to Pakistan. And here's the point that I want to make. You know, I saw something, I wanted to say something. They needed help. I didn't wait for anybody, to tell me that, it should be done. We just did it. We reached out to them, and they're so appreciative. And now, if ALPA's engaging and will help them develop a safety, hopefully a safety culture, you think about it, in my view, those accidents could have been prevented had that been in existence. We will do that for the globe. We're not trying to lower the bar to meet them. We're trying to raise up the rest of the globe to meet us. We have a safety record to prove it. So Captain Fox will have much more in his report about ALPA's continued commitment to progress in all of our air safety organization disciplines, as well as other priority areas for our members. So during this pandemic, the irreplaceable value of union representation has never been more apparent for workers. In fact, it's extremely difficult to imagine where workers would find themselves without a union movement of which every one of us is a part. From the initial pro-worker airline economic relief package, an overwhelming majority vote for pilot group agreements that save jobs, to the backing we provide each other through the Pilot Peer Support Program, no other union comes close to ALPA in terms of getting back up to fight again. These accomplishments and so many others are why this union keeps growing stronger, and why, as we recognized earlier, ALPA now proudly represents the PAL Aerospace pilots. The addition of PAL Aerospace brings all three of the PAL groups into our union, and we look forward to working with them to achieve a collective agreement that represents their contributions to their company. We all know that ALPA's size and strength sets us apart in the United States, Canada, and frankly, around the globe. Our long-term financial stability makes possible the one-of-a-kind services and expert resources we provide our members wherever they are in their careers. And thanks to the leadership of Captain Genovese, who you'll hear from shortly, we do all our work from a much stronger financial position than we might have otherwise. Now, in closing, I believe we all recognize that the airline piloting profession is less accessible than we want it to be, or that it really needs to be. To supply a qualified pilot workforce once the recovery occurs from the current downturn, ALPA's President's Committee for Diversity and Inclusion, under the leadership of First Officer Cami Torrieta, has developed a strategic plan for cultivating and promoting a diverse, inclusive culture that champions dignity and respect. We want all individuals to feel welcome and motivated to join our ranks as airline pilots. All right, wrapping it up. A few minutes ago, I mentioned that in boxing, defeat is declared only when an athlete doesn't get back up from the mat. No matter how severe the blow, ALPA pilots always get back up to continue the fight. And equally important, maybe more important, we make certain our union brothers and sisters get back up too. Thank you for your attention this morning. Appreciate it, and hope you have a great meeting.